Alrighty. So, will someone read the box for us? We're talking about, are we getting enough sleep?
It's recommended that teenagers get 8 hours of sleep a night. Ms. Haston believes her stats students are getting less than the recommended 8 hours of sleep per night. To test her belief, take a random sample of 10 students in class and record the number of hours of sleep for each. Do these data provide convincing evidence that the stats students get less than 8 hours of sleep per night using
Alpha.
equals 0.05?
Perfect. Okay, so I highlighted the important part here. This right here is my claim, okay? I believe y'all are getting less than 8 hours of sleep. That is the alternative hypothesis. If this were a science experiment, that would be your only hypothesis. But just like we talked about last time, we have a null and an alternative. Before we get to all of that, let's figure out how much sleep you guys got. So I asked Jolie before she left, you're going to Statlet.com, traditional inference, one sample t-test for mean. I'll pull this back up for your next example so that you know. You can just watch up here for now. One sample t-test for a mean. That's today's thing. Okay, hours of sleep. I'm going to go around and ask you guys how many hours of sleep you got last night. Garrett? Sleep?
I didn't go to bed till 2. I woke up at 10.
That's 8. Bella?
6.
Aiden? 4? Oh my gosh. Ella? Christos?
Probably like 4.
KK?
9.
Kaylee?
7.
Ava? Parker? 4? What were you doing? Caleb?
There's a
7.5?
9.
9 and 7. All right. So if you have raw data, you'll put in raw data. For other questions, they might just give you mean and standard deviation. That's great too. And so you can just switch it over based on whatever they gave you. But this one's based on data. Yeah, if you want to write that, you can, but I'll come back up to it so we can write it down later. Begin analysis. There's a nice little dot plot. If you're interested in seeing if there's any outliers, we'll look at a box plot, no outliers. Grayson was an outlier yesterday.
How many hours did you do?
12.
I like you got 12 hours. Oh my god.
Okay, this is the big part right here. Our inference procedure, one sample t-test. The alternate hypothesis, this is what the researcher believes. What do I believe? What am I trying? What is my claim?
Stat students are getting less than 8 hours.
So which symbol do we go with?
The second one.
Yes. Less than the recommended amount, which is 8. Okay? So that is purely based on the claim of the researcher. Perform inference, and here's what we need is a p-value.
Wait, I thought.
We're going to go back and write it in, yes.
Did we write down the mean and standard deviation?
Yeah, we'll go back and write all that in. Okay? But just kind of spoiler alert here. Garrett, is this p-value good or bad?
Bad. I mean, it's less than, so it's good for you.
It's good for me because I'm right.
Yeah.
But being right is not always
Yeah.
great because that means y'all aren't getting enough sleep. Good. Okay. So let's go fill in all the stuff that we need. Let me scroll back up here. Let's see. So let's go ahead and write down our sample here. I know I got more than 10, but that's fine. 5.5, 8, 6, 4, 6, 4, Yep.
So I can put commas in between.
Yeah, you can put commas. That'd be good.
Teachers, if you have B lunch, students are now released.
4, 6, 4, 9, 7, 8, 4. $7.5, 9, 7. This would usually be given, but it's way more fun to use our real data, right? Yeah. Some people like to be extra precise. That's okay. What's the symbol for sample mean again?
9, 7, 8.
That's the population mean. We are going to use that later, but sample mean X bar. And sample standard deviation S. So those are what they actually asked for in this problem. Staplet calculated all of that for me. So I'm going back over here. Here we go, mean and standard deviation. So 6.538 and 1.797.
6.538.
They say you can only remember 7 pieces of information at a time, but we just did 8. Okay. Here are the big 3 things I want y'all to be able to do. Hypotheses, calculate the p-value, make a decision. So we're about to write the hypotheses formally. I just showed you how to calculate the p-value, and then KK helped us make that decision, okay? So let's do it all written out here. Conditions are great too, but I don't want y'all to get too caught up in that. Oops, that doesn't look good. H sub 0, that's our null hypothesis. H sub A is our alternative. The null is no difference, okay? The null I actually do second. I actually am going to write the alternative first. The alternative is what the researcher thinks. So what do I think again? That y'all get less than 8 hours of sleep. So I think that y'all's true average is less than 8. You get to pick greater than, less than, or not equal to. And that's just based on the claim of the researcher. The null is always going to be equal. And then the other things match.
Is that M or mu?
It's a mu.
Okay.
It's like a little lowercase u with a tail extra long on the front side. But it does, I mean, you could look at it like an M. Mu. What conditions must be met? What was the minimum for your video project? How many people did you have to interview? More than that. 30. 30 is the large counts condition for means. And then the other day we did proportions. That was just 5 and 5. And then the other big one is random. So random check. And n is greater than or equal to 30. Uh-oh. How many do we have in our sample? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 is less than 30. Sad face. Proceed with caution.
Is it always going to be 30?
Yeah, for means.
Okay. Wait, why?
That's just the magic number. So once we get a sample of 30, the sampling distribution is approximately normal. Magical things happen when you have 30 people.
Isn't this just what we did yesterday?
Yes, but we're using means. Last class we did proportions.
Oh.
But yes, same ideas. Same ideas. Okay, if you guys want to follow along in Staplet, you can. In Staplet, you're going to the one sample t-test for mean. And that's how I got to here. So I'm going to take a little screenshot at the end. This is what we picked based on our alternative hypothesis. Perform the inference, and the big thing that we're interested in is the p-value. If the p-value is low,
It's wrong.
Oh, I erased the thing. Reject the hoe. Yes. Close enough. Is this p-value low?
I can't see it.
It's above 0.05. Oh, no, it's low.
It's low. That's what we really want here. P-value equals 0.006. How do y'all feel, number one, about writing the hypotheses? Okay. Number two, how do you feel about getting a p-value from Staplet.com? Okay. And then a number three, making a decision. So last step here, since p-value is less than alpha, we reject the null. If we reject the null, that means we like the alternative. So we do have convincing evidence that STAT students are getting less than the recommended amount of sleep.
Got it.
Is this just the same thing we did yesterday?
Yes, but with means instead of proportions.
The only thing different is we did the mean first.
The only thing different is what?
I was doing that first process of finding the mean.
We didn't even really need to do that. We just did. The big difference is that you're using mu instead of p right here.
Oh, okay.
And then the other big difference, which I don't want y'all to get too caught up in, is this large counts of 30 versus the other day it was 5 and 5.
How do we know that we didn't use n instead of p?
So this one doesn't say it. Usually it'll say mean or average. But if it doesn't say mean or average, then you're thinking about what kind of data is this? So when I collected my data, did I collect categorical or quantitative data from you guys? What did you answer with, a number or a word? Quantitative. So that means that we're in means. But usually it'll say mean or average. What other questions y'all have? Yes. Quantitative data. Here we go. P-value's low, reject the hoe. The researcher, well, we're not saying the researcher's right. We're saying we have evidence that the researcher's right. Okay, we're going to be a little vague about it. We can't really know the truth unless we took a census. But we're pretty convinced. Any other questions? I'm going to end this recording then. Y'all work on the check for understanding.